Hello again. Another game called My Bluff, where the dice are loaded by Frank Muir.
My guests are Beauty and the Beast, I suppose. Yeah. But about the second half. But the first, certainly, is a Beauty, and here back on the programme again, and none too soon, Gabrielle Drake. My next, not a beast really, it's arguably one of the best three writers now writing humour in England, and from the pages of Punch, Tatler, Daily Mirror and other journals too humorous to mention, we have plucked Alan Coren.
And the thinking man's Eamon Andrews, Patrick Campbell.
And my first guest is a woman. She's a female doctor. She's the wife of Tom Stoppard, a brilliant playwright, but her name is Miriam Stoppard. And we have here on the right the Time Lord, called Doctor, not which, Doctor Who, Tom Baker. That's the hard part.
We ring the bell and we get the first word, and as you recall, rumpty. Well, that's the word. Rumpty is going to be defined three different ways by Frank Muir, two of those, and co. And those two of those definitions are going to be false ones. One is true, and that's the one I think that Patrick and co are going to try and pick out. So what about this word, Frank?
Rumpty. Rumpty is thereby hangs no tail, because it's what an Englishman calls a Manx cat.
Ah,
Rumpty,
yes.
You see. And thereby hangs no tail, because Manx cats don't have tails. Not impressing him very much, am I? I say advisedly that it's the English word for a Manx cat, because actually the Manx people themselves call their cats a stubbin.
What a load. Next, please.
Could be true, you never know. Alan Coren, your turn.
Very sentimental moment now. We have actually to go back to a time when, instead of as it is now, the pound was a fraction of something else, there were actually fractions of a pound. The pound was large enough to have small bits. And what a rumpty was actually a 32nd part of a pound, or 7.5D, which was used by Victorian stockbrokers to denote ups and downs of the market. As it were, they would say, I see Patagonian tramcars went up another rumpty last night.
Yes, well. Gabrielle Drake.
My one claim to fame is an uncle who's no less than a general in the British Army, and he it was who first told me about rumpty, because rumpty is in fact army slang for a sort of army issue meat, which was issued to the officers in the First World War. It was a mixture of sort of chopped ham and chicken, and was considered vastly superior to bully beef, although apparently, according to my uncle, it was a lot more greasy.
Well, it's a special sort of mixture of meat, rather greasy for the officers. It's a Manx cat, and it's kind of broker's vernacular, that sort of thing. Patrick, your go.
Yes, well, if officers was noshing ham and chicken in the First World War, I don't believe, really. Stockbrokers. I've got a little note here that says a tailor's cap. Obviously, or it'd be tailor's cat.
Do you know how to spell C-A-T-K-A-T?
Oh, well, merci, yes. Well, it certainly isn't anything like that. It'd be kind of stockbroker's chat coin.
That was Alan, yes, you said that. Were you speaking the truth? Or
I wish I hadn't.
Ka-chow. very hard to imagine it, but really stockbrokers did in those days speak of that kind of money as rumpty. Here we have nums. Patrick's go.
If you could bear a little bit of kind of 1920 kind of chat, like the cat's whiskers. She was the cat's whiskers. She was talking about nums, because nums was an old Cockney word for cat's whiskers. A little wandering pussy. You caught her by the back of the neck, held her up, snipped off the nums, she would stay at home. Nums, cat's whiskers. Thank you.
Tom Baker's go.
The geographical position of the nums is 14 degrees 10 north, 4 degrees 14 west, which puts it southwest, at the southwestern tip of the Menai Strait between Anglesey and Wales. I think probably for people who don't understand about navigation, any landlubbers here would rather know that it's actually a very, very fierce section of water, which is the nightmare of any sea captain sailing his ship, say, 4 miles off Carnarvon.
Would be, wouldn't it? Yes. What is it?
Yes,
Rushing current, is it?
he'd sooner go the long way round, I dare say. Miriam Stoppard, your turn.
Well, now, every dandy needs a nums, because a nums was an 18th century sartorial subterfuge, which we might in modern terms term a dickie. It was a sham collar plus shirt front, which gentlemen, after a very busy day of social engagements and finding their shirts rather grubby and creased at the front, would put on this nice little white dickie you see and present a good face to the world.
Right, well, it's a word for cat's whiskers. It's a word for a false shirt front, and it's a kind of rather dangerous bit of water. Frank.
Had it been a navigation term, I wouldn't have known about it. So that's not very helpful, is it?
It's a good start, Frank, a good start.
I can't read what I've put here. A dickie, 18th century dickie. I've never heard of that. I know I should have done, but I've never heard of the rushing water. Cat's whiskers is absolute rubbish, so it must be the cat's whiskers.
Ah, well, it was Patrick who said that, wasn't it? Yes. Oh, true or bluff?
Unforgettably.
Let's see now. Here he comes. Nothing to do with the cat's whiskers. Someone's got to own up now. Here it comes. Who gave the true one?
Oh, it isn't.
Yes. The false dickie or shirt front. That's what it is. 2-0, I say. That's not a bad word. Trolley bobs. Alan, your turn.
Nasty time. It's a time actually to put the children to bed and the cat under the stairs and turn your faces away from the screen if you're of a nervous disposition, because trolley bobs are the nastier bits and pieces of animals. The pancreatic bits, the odd bits of diseased liver, the appendix, all the sort of stuff you find in an animal which aren't entirely edible but might be and may end up being fed to your cat or dog. It's rather like numbles from humble pie, you know? It's bits and pieces of an animal which have no use after the animal is dead. But there they are, red and horrible.
Right. Got to be called something. Gabrielle, your turn.
No doubt your great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers wouldn't have known exactly what trolley bobs was, because trolley bobs was a children's game. And unfortunately, the rules haven't come down now to us. We do know, though, that it was best played on all fours. It was played on a flat surface, like a paving stone, out of doors. And usually they used to use little round pebbles. So, I mean, it was a game available to the rich and the poor.
What a charming thought.
Well, that much was in its favour, wasn't it?
Indeed.
Frank, you'll go.
Well, you come down the Menai Straits and carried by the tide, and you eventually find Cornwall with a bit of luck, you see, and wrenching off your clothes and tearing off your nums, You plunge into the briny and start swimming, and the longshoremen say, "Do-ee, watch out!" The accent is approximate, because they could have moved to Cornwall from another part of the country. But they, "Do-ee, watch out for the trolley bobs," which are jellyfish.
Well, it's one of those games. It's some of those entrails, and it's one of those jellyfish. Tom Baker.
Well, I'm very impressed by Alan's suggestion that it was the droppings of animals in nurseries or in pancreatic juices scattered about the place. And I like Frank's notion about look out for the trolley bobs, which might be jellyfish.
Good, isn't it?
But because I'm very impressionable, and yours sounded plausible and so socially interesting, I think it's a game for kids.
That was Gabrielle. Now, were you teasing? Oh, yes, Who gave the true definition of that interesting word?
Well, I hate to bring all the nastiness up again, but...
But not the unspeakable.
Yes. It's entrails, no question about that. Trolley bobs is entrails, are entrails. In Coney we have next, Tom Baker tells us what it means to begin with.
The pronunciation is Inkany. Inkany was an adjective that came flashing into prominence about 1600 and lasted for some little time and caused some considerable stir. And then quite inexplicably, it just slid out of the general vocabulary.
Oh, dear.
Which is a great tragedy. And I think it was Christopher Marlowe, yes, I'm certain now I come to consider it, it was Christopher Marlowe in that soft porn poem, The Jew of Malta, who used it so beautifully, I think. He said, "Love me little, love me long, let music rumble, while I in thy Inkany lap do tumble." And the meaning is,
I don't think we wish to know.
fine, soft, gentle, alluring.
From 1600.
Yes.
Thank you. Next.
Well, Scansion was never Marlowe's strong point, was it? Miriam Stoppard, your turn.
Well, now, you historians of the culinary arts will recognise the word immediately because, of course, it was a Tudor word for carving fish. But Tudor English being richer than English at the present time, they had several words for carving for the appropriate sort of fish. So, for instance, one would chine a salmon, or culpen a trout, or scar a bream. And Inkany was the word that was used when you attacked a pike with your fish carver.
Yep. Yep. Why not? Patrick, his go. He tells us now.
You'll find that Inkany is absolutely awful. Terror, dread, nameless fears. It's the kind of thing that appears. You can't see it. You can't even smell it. You can't even hear it come. But Inkany is a kind of fearful, kind of invisible demon. With the back of the neck. No. It's a kind of nameless dread.
Whoa, yeah, well, and it's a kind of invisible demon, he said. It means something fine or delicate, and it's a special Tudor word for carving a pike. Alan Coren.
Tom, it came in 1600 or it went out in 1600?
Well, I can't be absolutely
Very
certain
important.
about that. It was. I think it was before, but it was around 1600.
You see, there are millions of people out there who expect us to know our Marlowe inside out. We reckon that the Jew of Malta, having been written in 1587, Inkany probably wasn't in it. Anyway, it's a terrible word. You can see why he was stabbed in the tavern if he was using stuff like that. The critics would have had. I don't think it's that. I am very doubtful about the thing that frightens Patrick. Nothing, I feel, frightens Patrick, whether you can smell or see it or whatever else. I am inclined to go... Was it a verb? that you... Or was it a thing for carving pike?
No, it was a verb, the way that one does
It's a
it.
funny verb, isn't it?
They had funny words in Tudor English schools.
I think it's Patrick's fear.
It was
think
Patrick,
Patrick's
the phantom. He was kind of nameless, dread phantom, that kind of thing. We telling the truth, lad?
Always happy.
You talk about
Not for a minute. Nothing to do. No, nothing of that sort. Someone else must own up now.
Little searching around
Who gave
here.
the true one? Someone has, yes. It is.
But who's got it? You posted it down the hole.
Oh, this is to drag the drama
They've
out
got it.
intolerably. He's got it there.
Don't give it
Don't
to
give it-
him.
It's the first time
I
I...
see.
Give it to me, I'll...
You mustn't give it to me, you know. People will talk if you do that. So, actually, the true definition was fine and delicate and so forth. I don't know all about that and Marlowe and so forth, but the definition was the true one, no question. Toggy's the next one. Gabrielle.
If I ever went for a stroll around the North Pole, being a very cold person, I'd be very thankful I had my toggy on. Because, in fact, a toggy is a nice, thick, heavy overcoat. Not very fashionable or beautiful. It's made of patches of reindeer skin, and in short, it's an overcoat that's worn in the Arctic regions.
Yes. Frank, your go.
A toggy is a long, thin pole at the top of which, spasmodically, there's a window, and at the bottom of which, the south end, you might say, stands a chap called a knocker-upper. And a knocker-upper used to walk around the streets of mining towns and industrial towns and knock up the people, 5:30 in the morning or something, to say, "Time to get up." And he'd go tonk, tonk, tonk with his stick, his toggy, because it had to reach to the bedroom windows. So it's a long...
Pardon me. Yes.
I want to bang on the window. Yes, right, Alan.
Well, our side had problems with this, because if any of you is an old Harrovian, you'll know immediately what it was, because it's old Harrow slang. We rather thought that Miriam might well be an old...
Very well.
Other two are clearly Vulgarians. But a very simple piece of Harrovian slang. It just means a swat. Over-industrious boy.
Won't say, wait, there's not much more you could say after that. No, it's a swat, knocker-up's pole, and a coat you'd wear in very cold weather, in the Arctic particularly. Miriam.
Well,
I don't know, it's fair to say.
yes, it's fair to say we all don't know.
Do you know?
Yes, a fair bluff. Well, it certainly does sound like a slang word, Frank. You know, the pole, the elongated barber's pole for knocking people up in the morning. It sounds like that, true. And it sounds also the sort of word that might be used at school for a swat. But I'm attracted to the polar overcoat, the reindeer skin job.
You're going to choose that, are you, my dear? You
I
are,
think they're
yes.
slipping over.
Are you well advised? Now, Gabrielle will own up and tell you. Was it the Arctic overcoat?
It's true!
It is! Yes. Not clear who calls them toggies. I don't know whether the Eskimos or the people who visit there call
Dr.
it.
Stoppard does.
Dr. Stoppard certainly does, yes. She knows what's what. So here we have O-B-E, yes. But I don't know how you pronounce it. O-B-E. Miriam.
Well, now, if you'd been at Runnymede about the time of the signing of the Magna Carta, you might have come sleepily out of your tent and said, "Lo, it is Obe," because Obe was the 13th century word for daybreak or dawn. It was the beginning of the day. And perhaps if Kipling had been around, he might have said, "The Obe is coming up like thunder in the road to Mandalay," in deference to you, Alan.
He just might, yeah. I think that's fair to say. Patrick Campbell's go.
You take the west coast of America around about the 1880s. A kind of Japanese kind of pouring in by canoe and that kind of thing. Bringing with them tea. Tea. Not palatable to the Americans, 1880, around by San Francisco, California. But they toasted with the tea. It was called oabe.
They pressed it into toasted tea cakes.
No, just toasted the plain tea out of the packet. Called oabe. Thank you.
Next.
Right, yes. Tom Baker is the next.
An obe was an administrative district in the ancient Greek country of Laconia. Now, Laconia, as you know, has for its neighbors the Arcadians, but that's a diversion. What is important about the inhabitants of the obe was that they were by temperament quite not timid, they were diffident, withdrawn, taciturn, laconic, I think would be the word.
Ah, well, it means daybreak. It means that kind of district of Greece, and it's a kind of toasted tea. Gabrielle.
An actual district of Greece.
Area.
You said,
Yes.
Yes, it was administered by districts, and an obe was an administrative
An
district.
obe was an administrative district, yes. I don't know. I'm not totally convinced by that. And this oabe, it's a marvellous pronunciation of the word, and I would have never guessed that it had been pronounced like that, and I don't think it really was. I would have liked to have come out of my tent sleepily at Runnymede to greet the obe. I think it's the dawn.
You think it's the dawn? It was Miriam. Yes, Miriam. You said it. Is that true?
Well, I'm afraid Gabrielle would have been...
Oh, no. No, it wasn't. It must have been one of the others. Here it comes. He's got it. He's got it! That administrative district of Greece that stood him so well in stead. I say, 5-1.
Don't go on about it.
No. Be red faces after the programme, I can tell you. Gurjon, Frank.
Gurjon is a... Gurjon, maybe, is a tree in the Philippines. But it's not just... It is no ordinary common or garden tree, this one. It's got bark on it. Well, I suppose some, but it's got sort of greyish bark, which the islanders pound down under pressure and whack and extract from it a substance, a sort of gooey substance, which they use for face cream, and they use on their canoes as well. Not at the same time. It's goujon.
Face cream on canoes.
No. The ladies use face cream, but the chaps, stuck for something to slap on their canoes, put a bit of goujon on. It's highly reckoned in the Philippines. Your Japanese might have had it on their canoes.
Oabe.
I think it's about time you butted in, Alan.
I'm tired of dabbling in nastiness this evening, but a gurgeon is actually a falconry term, and it's a piece of meat that gets stuck in the throat of your falcon or hawk, prevents it from swallowing, interferes with its flight. And the only way to get it out is sort of take your hawk upside down and go like that, and it shoots out. A bit of rubbish in the throat of your hawk.
So, Gabrielle, will you tell us?
Yes, a goujon, or a pair of goujons, would have been worn by ladies in medieval times. They were stockings, really, made of a soft dough-like leather and held up by a nice little tiny row of leather buttons at the back. Luckily, zips hadn't been invented then, or they might have got stuck.
Okay, so it's a kind of it's a bit of food that the bird can't swallow. It's a soft leather stocking, and I think I'm safe in saying it's a substance. Yes, it's a substance. That they
I'll
rub
go
into
along with you on that.
Would that be all cover it pretty well? Yeah. Patrick.
And how one can guess that a thing called a substance, it can be an elephant's toenail?
At 5-1, you could force yourself.
Who's doing the guessing, you or me? Without doubt, absolute nonsense about a leather stocking and blocking falcons' necks with glue. It's a face cream for putting on canoes.
Now, Frank.
See it now?
Oh, I see
It's
it.
so We did tell you that now, I mean, after all, yeah. So it's what he said it was. And it comes from a tree. I'm not sure whether, yeah, the tree produces the substance. And then they do with it what they will. Choot or chout. Patrick.
You possibly remember the Marathas, a tribe, a marauding tribe around central India, early 18th century. You've got the Marathas, they kind of boiling in, and they conquer you. And they say, can we have your choot, please? Which was a quarter of the national income. And if the people that had been conquered failed to pay, these Marathas they retired for a week or two and came back again and asked for it all over again. A tax.
A tax, in the sense of an tax, yes, not a tax on...
Anthrax, yes.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Tax what you pay, that kind, yeah. Tom.
Oh, a chout is a label which merchants used to use formerly, some still do in remote areas, by which they label their goods or their livestock at markets. Of course, many years ago, when very few people could read, maybe the chout took quite a simple form. Sometimes it was a bit of coloured wool tied around a cow's horn, or it might be something slightly more elaborate, like a metal star, which would be stuck quite deeply into the flank of a vegetable marrow. That's the chout.
Yeah. Miriam Stoppard.
Well, sensually speaking, the chout provides 50% of the pleasure during osculation. It's the lower lip. It's a countryman's word for the lower lip. Now, in the part of the country that I come from, which is Geordieland, Tyneside, when a child pouts a bit and he's feeling a bit depressed and sulky, sort of, we say he's got a pet lip. But now I know the correct countryman's term. One should say he's hanging the chout. He's a bit down in the mouth.
So it's the lower lip. It's a kind of a tax that these marauders exacted, and it's a label that you sometimes stick into a vegetable marrow. Frank?
If you stick a label into a vegetable marrow, it sort of expires, doesn't it? It bleeds. You couldn't stick anything into it. I must say, it's very tempting to think of the maracas sweeping through India in the medieval times. Danegeld, sort of Indian word for Danegeld.
No, long after, dear. Long after that.
Oh, yes. I think it must be the lower lip.
The lower lip. That was Miriam, wasn't it, who spoke of that? I wonder if she was pulling your leg, Frank. Oh, she was. That was just so much Tilly Valley. Who gave the true definition? Here it is!
Tax in the
Didn't sound likely, did it? But there you are. That's, I suppose, what this game is all about. And we really don't have much time. Indeed, we have no time for any more. And what I have to announce... Are you sure? Do you want to go on?
Yeah.
But anyway, the score, I hardly like to announce it, it's so obvious. The score standing at 7-1. Patrick and Co have won. Taking it on the chin. Sportsman. Well, we shall have some more old bottle tops from the Oxford English Dictionary next week. Until then, goodbye from Alan Coren.
Bye.
Tom Baker. Gabrielle Drake, Miriam Stoppard, Frank Muir, Patrick Campbell, and goodbye.